Hello choir and welcome to episode 3 of Choir at Home. You'll be familiar with the concept of these hymn tutorials from episode 2. Basically, we kick off with theory time with a question and answer session. The second section is the one in which we learn the music, and this time not just the melody, but the harmony parts as well. And finally, in the third section, there's an opportunity to sing the hymn all the way through with piano accompaniment. Apologies in advance for my very squeaky sustain pedal. I tried to fix it yesterday using a plastic drinking straw, but clearly that wasn't successful. So without further ado, let's do theory time. So get your fingers near the pause button. Pause after I've asked the question. Think about what you think the answer is, and then click play again to listen to the answer and, more crucially, the explanation. Question 1. What is the name of this hymn? So there are two ways of naming a hymn. First, there's the name of the text, and that is typically the first line of text. So, "When I survey the wondrous cross" is the name of the text. And then there's the name of the music it's set to. That's almost always written in block capitals somewhere on the sheet. So the name of the tune is Rockingham. Question 2. Who wrote the music of this hymn? So by convention, the composer of the music is credited in the top right-hand corner. You'll see in this instance, there's quite a lot of text. We're told that it was adapted by Edward Miller, but that the harmony was chiefly from a book called Webb's Collection of Psalm Tunes, which was published in 1820. So a slightly mysterious authorship and certainly a combined effort on this one. It just goes to show that sometimes the way music is created is a little bit more complicated than an individual person just sitting down and writing something. Question 3. Who wrote the words? So by convention, the person who wrote the words is credited in the left-hand corner or somewhere near the text. In this case, you'll see that the composer of the text was a guy called Isaac Watts. Isaac Watts was one of the very early hymn text writers. He wrote over 500 hymn texts and really comes second only to Charles Wesley in the hymn book. Charles Wesley, by most calculations, wrote several thousand hymn texts. We'll be familiar with other hymns by Isaac Watts, such as "Give Me the Wings of Faith," which we sing around All Saints' Day. I know at All Saints Choir we've sung that text to at least 2 different hymn tunes and also in an anthem setting. We'll also know the hymn "O God, Our Help in Ages Past," particularly memorable from Remembrance Sunday when we sing it every single year. So this text, "When I Survey the Wondrous Cross," arguably one of Isaac Watts' very, very best, a very evocative text. If you just pick a line almost at random, "My richest gain I count but loss, and pour contempt on all my pride." Certainly one of Isaac Watts' very best texts. Question 4. If you look beneath the name Isaac Watts, you'll see LM. What does that mean? So hymns, so that the different verses always fit the music in the same way, almost always have the same number of syllables in each line. LM is the name of one of these meters. It stands for long meter, and what it means is that there are 8 syllables in each line. Question 5. What is the rhyming scheme of this text? So if you look at the text, you will see that the first line rhymes with the third line, and that the second line rhymes with the fourth line. So cross, loss, boast, most, feet, meet in the first and third line, second and fourth line, died, pride, God, blood, not really, down, crown, etc., etc., etc. And the way we describe this is to say it has an A, B rhyme scheme. The A's rhyme and the B's rhyme. 1 rhymes with 3, 2 rhymes with 4. Question 6, we're back to the music. So last time we ran through a unison hymn. So if I said that this is an SATB setting, what am I talking about? So, like LM, SATB is an acronym, and it stands for soprano, alto, tenor, bass, the 4 basic voice parts that we're familiar with from almost all settings of hymns. By convention, in these hymns, the outer verses, so verses 1 and 5, the first and the last, are sung in unison, or rather an octave unison, tenors and basses singing an octave beneath the sopranos and altos. And in the verses in the middle, we sing in harmony with the sopranos, altos, tenors and basses all singing their different lines. So SATB refers to these 4-part settings, and it stands for soprano, alto, tenor, bass. Question 7. If I asked what the range of a piece of music was, what would I be talking about? So when I ask about the range, it refers to the interval, so the amount of space between the lowest note and the highest note. So question 8 builds off this. I'm going to ask you about the ranges of all the different vocal parts. So firstly, what is the range of the soprano line? So if we look at the soprano line, we'll see that the lowest note is an E flat. You'll see as well that the highest note is also an E flat. That means that the range of the soprano line is 1 octave. What is the range of the alto line? So if you look at the alto line, you'll see the lowest note is a B flat. Look under the word rich, of richest, you'll see beneath the first ledger line, that's a B flat. And you'll see in the next bar, the highest note at the top of that group of quavers is also a B flat. So B flat to the B flat above that. So like the soprano line, the range of the alto line is also an octave. Tenor line next. What is the range of the tenor line? So if you look at exactly where the alto's lowest note is, you will see that the tenors are singing a D natural there. That's the tenor's lowest note in this hymn. To find the highest note, you need to look a few bars before that, where the tenors are singing a note which is 2 ledger lines above the stave, and that's an E flat. So we have a D natural to an E flat. Now, we know that D natural to an E flat is just a semitone, otherwise known as a minor second. But you'll have spotted, of course, that this isn't the D natural that's right next to an E flat. There's an additional octave. And the way we say that is to say it's a compound minor second. So the word compound describes the octave. Alternatively, you could just describe it as a minor ninth. Those of you guys who are in the earlier hymn books won't have learnt about the whole major minor thing. So if you just said a second or a ninth or a compound second, you'd be quite correct. Finally, what's the range of the bass line? So the bass's lowest note comes a few bars before the end, and it's an F natural. If you look under gain, you will see that the basses are briefly in unison on a B flat with the tenors. So that makes their highest note a B flat. So F to B flat, we'll have spotted as a perfect fourth, but like the tenor line, we can see there's an additional octave we need to credit there. So it's a compound perfect fourth, or you could say it's a perfect 11th. My next question, how many beats are there in a bar? By convention, hymn books don't actually contain time signatures. However, we can work out what the time signature is by just looking at a typical bar. If you look at the first complete bar, you'll see there are 3 crotchets. So 3 will be the top number to show the number of beats in a bar, so 3. And to show that we're measuring in crotchets, we use the number 4. So the time signature is 3/4, or 3 crotchet beats in a bar. Question 10, you'll see the first note, and also the first note of the second system, is in a bar that doesn't have 3 beats. It's just there by itself. What's that called? So that's called an anacrusis, and we typically see those at the beginnings of pieces of music. It's just a shorthand so that we don't have to write a bar and write a bunch of rests kind of pointlessly before the first note. We can just get right in with it. And you'll see that those incomplete beats are made up in the last bar. The last bar just has 2 beats in it. So the first bar and the last bar kind of team up to create a complete bar. If you keep your eyes on that last bar, you'll see that I've written 3 plus 2 there. So what am I on about when I say 3 plus 2? 3 plus 2 is my suggestion for the amount of time we should take between each verse. So 3 means that we hold on the last note or last chord for 3 musical beats, and then we break for 2 musical beats. So that's what 3 plus 2 means. Question 12, you see that throughout the score there are some apostrophes. What do those refer to? So the apostrophes show the ends of the lines of text. In a typesetting like this, where the text is written directly underneath the music, arguably they're less necessary. However, they are really, really helpful when the text is written separate from the melody, because it allows our eyes to very quickly see where the ends of the lines match up to the music. Question 13. You'll see that there are slurs written between some of the notes, these bendy lines. What are those about? So in music, slurs can mean several different things depending on the context. If you're a string player, the slurs designate the type of bowing you're going to be using. If you're playing the piano, it just refers to where the phrases are. As singers, the slurs show where the melismas are, where we have to sing more than one note on one syllable. So here, if you look at I, you'll see the word I has 2 notes on it rather than 1. So the slur just shows you that that's what's happening, and it also helps with the inner parts, with the harmony parts. With quavers, with beamed quavers, there's another way of showing melismas, which is to beam them together. So if you look at that lovely alto line under gain, you can see that they have 4 quavers on gain, followed by 2 on I. So that's not designated by a slur. That's shown by the way that the quavers are beamed. Question 14. You'll see within the musical score some little tick symbols, for instance, between his head, his hands, his feet in verse 3. And you'll also see some arrows. What are those about? So the ticks and the arrows are supplementary information about where we breathe and where we don't breathe. As standard, we breathe at the end of each line of text. But there are times when, to make the text clearer, we shouldn't do that. So for instance, in verses 2 and 4, after boast and robe, to make the text more clear, we're going to go through there. And similarly, sometimes there are places in the middle of lines where, to make the text a bit clearer, we should breathe. So if you look at, for example, verse 3, see from his head, his hands, his feet, we're taking little pauses in between the things there. And my final question, guys, what key are we in? So you'll have heard from the introduction that very clearly this is a major key hymn. And the way we work out a major key hymn from a flat key signature is that we look at the penultimate flat. So in this case, if you read from left to right, we have a B flat, an E flat, and an A flat. So we look at the penultimate flat, the last one from the end. So that's the E flat. And then we just say the word major. So this hymn is in E flat major. Every major key has a minor key which shares the same key signature. It's called the relative minor or the relative major. So an additional question is, what is the relative minor of E flat major? So we work out relative minors by going down 3 semitones from the major note. So E flat is the major note, E flat major. Down 1 would be D natural. Down 2 would be D flat. Down 3 would be C natural. So the relative minor would be C minor. So that's enough theory for today. We're now going to move on to the second part, where we are going to learn the music. At this point, can I please invite you to pause this video and to make sure you warm up your voice and get ready to sing in the way I described in episode 1. Excellent, welcome back. You're all warmed up now. We're ready to learn the music. What I'm going to do is go to the piano and I'm going to do 4 things right in a row. The first thing I'm going to do is just play the melody line. I'll highlight out the melody line with a soft bass line. That's for everyone, the sopranos, trebles, every single verse, and all the parts for the outer verses where we're going to be singing in unison. The second thing I'm going to do is to highlight the alto line. So after I've played the melody line, I'm going to highlight the alto line. Thirdly, I'm going to play just the tenor and bass part. And fourthly and lastly, I will play all 4 parts all the way through. We have quite a range of experience and ages in All Saints Choir. Our age range is 7 to 67, and some of us will learn at different speeds, and that's all right. For those of you who are a bit newer in the choir, use the repeat function. Go back, listen to the melody several times, listen to it, hum gently, then a bit more confidently as you get used to it. Sing it through a few times to Oh My, so oh my, etc. And then after that, you can make up your own 8-syllable line and sing through the hymn tune to that. So, I'm picking up this melody, or something like that. For those who are a bit more advanced, you can try singing things through when I'm not playing your part. So altos, you could see if you can sight read your line while I'm just playing the melody line and the bass, or when I'm just playing the tenor and bass part. So tailor this bit of the video to your experience level. right, that's the note learning bit of the video done. As I said, there's no points for speed here. Repeat this as many times as you need. Make sure you look through the words carefully as well. Remember, it's the quality of our musicianship, not the speed of our learning, which is important here. Just to remind you, verses 1 and 5, we're going to sing in unison, or octave unison rather, and we're going to have the harmony parts for the middle verses, verses 2, 3 and 4. So after a short playover and a 3+2, let's all stand together and sing When I Survey the Wondrous Cross.